Okay.
Okay, we're live.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, welcome to 2021, everyone. Call this meeting to order. So, looks like we've got all of our counselors, and we have a couple of guests. And so we'll move on to the oath of office. We have one new counselor who needs to be sworn in. That is Michael Gary there. So, Mike, do you have a? How are we going to do this via the virtual template? Do we have an idea?
He's going to say the words.
I'm just going to say the words, I believe.
Do you have them printed out there, Michael?
I have them.
Great. And we should also talk about the logistics of having a Mike and a Michael on this call. So I think that should work out well.
Okay.
Okay. Jump in. Go for it.
Okay. I, Michael Gary, under penalties of law, do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, unlike my president, the Constitution of the State of Minnesota, and will faithfully discharge the duties of counselor for the City of Grand Marais to the best of my knowledge, judgment, and ability. Today's date, where are we? Whatever. 13th.
13th, yep. All right. Well, welcome to the council, Michael.
All right, thank you.
So roll call, we already kind of went through that. Open forum. Does anybody have any communications that they would like to read for the open forum? Have not received any. All right, we will.
Didn't we all get a letter, email, or are we not doing that here?
I guess I'm not certain.
Regarding Snowplow? Anybody else get one?
Thank you, Kelly. Yes.
I'm not certain that I got that, but I also have been struggling with email. Well, I mean, Kelly, if you want to,
yeah, I got one too.
If you want to bring that up as a public forum item, then you certainly can. If that's what it was intended for when it was sent.
I thought it. Sorry, I didn't look to see. I thought it maybe got sent to all counselors. I can certainly read it if you want me to.
I'd be happy to just so we could talk about it and understand with Mike. I would be happy to add that as a brief agenda item after we get our guests off. You know what I mean? Go through, add it to the bottom before council reports, if that's okay. So we can read it and then we can discuss it.
Yeah, because I see we also have the county administrator, which affects county plowing since they do the streets. So it might be a great thing for us to discuss a little bit.
Okay, so we can add that to the bottom of the agenda then.
Somebody want to forward it to me in the meantime?
I'll do it right now.
All right, so we'll do that. So last call for open forum topics. Seeing none, close the open forum, move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda has a typical 3 items and then has 2 items that are, well, one of them is not a typical January thing. The other one is. Unless someone would like to pull an item for discussion, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Anyone?
I would make a motion with the to approve the consent agenda with the changes discussed to our agenda for tonight.
Exactly. Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion on the consent agenda as amended? Hearing none, we'll go through a roll call vote. Let's see how it shows up today. It must be alphabetical order on my thing because Anton's always first. Okay, so.
Aye.
Great. All right. Kelly, your vote.
Aye.
Michael, your vote.
Aye.
Craig, your vote.
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. Consent agenda carries. Agenda has been modified. And we are about to move on to the appointments to boards and commissions. So a little bit of background about this one. So we typically have, well, there's two parts to this conversation. There's appointments of citizens to the different boards, and then there's also our assignments of counselors to different boards and commissions that exist within the city structure and the community. So let's start with the citizen appointments. We have gotten, we are still looking for some, but we have gotten some appointments that you know, for different positions that are open. We do have to have some conversation about some of these, but yeah, I don't know, Mike, if you want to jump in and kind of break them down one by one, or how we want to move forward with these.
Let's start with, did everybody receive the applications? Okay, so we did receive one application for EDA board after the packet was sent out.
Thank you.
That Virginia Palmer,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I got that
Right.
one. Who sent that? Patrick, did you send that?
All the applications should have been in a document I sent you guys in one document.
Okay.
On Tuesday.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yep. Sorry, that was me. Yeah, I saw the rest. I didn't see hers.
Yep. So that leaves us then with still with an opening for the planning commission, and we also have, you know, these different applications for the different positions that we should discuss as well. So
I'm actually gonna I'm anticipating that this conversation about board positions is going to take some time because we have some issues with some of the openings. So I would suggest that we also push it towards the end of the agenda and not have the rest of our guests wait around for that conversation.
Does that work for everybody?
Yep.
Okay, because that way we can, that way we can get down to, well, I think we can probably slide through the selecting acting mayor, newspaper depositories, and all that stuff. And you know, I don't anticipate that there's going to be a lot of thorough discussion in regards to those, but let's slide through those things, and then we can get down to the rest of the presentations for tonight. So like I said, so we're going to appointments and boards. We're going to let that one ride a little bit. Selecting the acting mayor. So this is the person who runs meetings when I'm not around, like Anton was about to do when I was a little bit late for this meeting. So does anyone have any nominations for acting mayor for the year 2021?
I'll nominate Kelly.
All right.
I'll second that.
Okay. So there's a nomination. Do we need seconds for nominations? I don't think we need seconds for nominations.
You call it a nomination, but it's basically a motion.
Okay, so we have a motion for Kelly Swearingen to be the acting mayor, and a second. Is there any further discussion on this?
Sorry, Craig. Sorry I let you down. I hate to lose your support. Kelly will do a great job.
Any further wise ass comments or anything? Hearing none, we'll move to a roll call vote. Anton, your vote.
Aye.
Kelly, your vote.
I'm supposed to vote for myself. Can I abstain?
No,
No?
you don't have a legal basis to abstain. You
Can I
can vote.
vote for myself? Aye.
Yeah, that's good. Michael, your vote.
Aye.
Craig, your vote.
Aye.
I am an aye as well. Congratulations, Kelly, if that's what is in order. Next item on the agenda is the designation of the official newspaper. In this in the bid that they gave us, the cost has stayed the same from the previous year. And that they have been the newspaper that we have gone with in the past. Does anybody have any discussion for this, or anyone feel excited to make a motion on this regard?
I will make a motion. So moved.
Okay, so there's a motion to adopt the Cook County News Herald as the official newspaper for the city of Grand Marais for the year 2021. Is there a second for that?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, move to a roll call vote. Anton, your vote.
Aye.
Kelly, your vote.
Aye.
Michael, your vote.
Aye.
Craig, your vote.
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. The motion carries. So, city depositories of funds. So we have in our packet, we have 5 different places that the city deposits funds: Grand Marais State Bank, North Shore Federal Credit Union, Security State Bank, LMC, the Forum Fund, and RBC, Royal Bank of Canada, which is great. These have been the depositories for the duration of the time that I've been mayor, and I've checked in regularly with city staff who have said that they have met the needs of the city. Not sure if there's any other discussion anyone would like to have on regards to this, or a motion to approve the depositories as they are listed.
So moved.
So moved.
Oh, which one wants a motion? Which ones want a second?
I don't want a second. I want to make the motion.
Go for it, Ant.
Okay, so Anton gets the motion. Kelly, are you agreeing to the second?
I'll let the younger person go first for now.
Oh, all right. So we got a motion by Anton. We got a second by Kelly for the depositories. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none. Anton, your vote.
Aye.
Kelly, your vote.
Aye.
Michael, your vote.
Aye.
Craig, your vote.
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. Depositories are set for 2021. Let's see what we got. Oh, EDA, HRA. You guys are up. So please introduce yourselves, and then let's jump into your presentation. So I do believe that the understanding of this presentation is informational for the council to gain some more information in regards to this topic. I do believe that there will be an opportunity for some questions. However, I would encourage the council to think about the information that's presented here, and we will definitely be having more thorough discussions on this in the future. So with that said, take it away, as they say.
Thank you. I would just like to quickly introduce Ella and Elizabeth with the Minnesota Housing Partnership. We've been working together for several months on the exploration of an HRA, Housing and Redevelopment Authority, for Cook County, the city of Grand Marais, and hopefully the Grand Portage Reservation. And I think James is here as a partner in this project. He and Mike and I have been working together locally with Elizabeth and Ella, and I'll just let them take it away, as they say.
Right. Thank you so much. I think Ella is helping me out. I had a little technical difficulty. She's going to share her screen. And there we are. So as this comes up, you see, and I'll just kind of jump right in. This is the title of our presentation, Strengthening Rural Communities. And this is actually the name of the program under which Minnesota Housing Partnership is providing technical assistance services to the Cook County Grand Marais EDA and its partners. My name again is Elizabeth Glidden. I'm with the Minnesota Housing Partnership, and my colleague Ella Mitchell is a Community Development Officer with the Minnesota Housing Partnership. So this is what we're hoping to do today with our presentation. We will give you a little bit of information so you understand what is Minnesota Housing Partnership, what are the services that we provide. We will provide some basic information about housing and housing needs specific to Cook County as sort of a grounding for why we're here. And we're going to give you some overview of what is Housing and Redevelopment Authority and why are those powers important to working on housing need. So Minnesota Housing Partnership is a 30-plus year nonprofit organization. We work in 3 primary areas. We work on policy, primarily at the state level of Minnesota, but we also do some local policy and some federal policy work. That is all based on housing issues. We produce original research. One of our popular reports is called The State of Housing, and there's a companion, which is a county level profiles of housing as well as legislative district level profiles. But we also produce original research on unique issues that are happening around the state of Minnesota. And then finally, we provide direct assistance to communities, and that's the program through which Ella and I are supporting the EDA. And this work is focused on serving rural and Native communities. As you can see from this map, this is just a snapshot of places that we have worked in the state of Minnesota. We're just in the process actually of updating this to have a more current view, but you can see that we've had a lot of activity around the state through a variety of programs. Next slide. So when we provide technical assistance to a community, we work to establish an agreement on what those technical assistance services are. So with this Strengthening Rural Communities grant, we are here because of an application made by the Cook County Grand Marais EDA for technical assistance that came forward earlier in the spring of 2020. The award then went through a process of being evaluated and granted. And then later in the fall, we started working directly with the EDA to further define what are the needs and assistance. We have a memorandum of understanding, and that just is the outline of what we're here to work with the EDA on, as well as its defined partners. And so that is our work to explore a housing and redevelopment authority, as well as tools and programs specific to housing. So now just kind of getting a little bit more into what's happening on the ground. One of the things that has been, I think, a big positive is from, the communication that we've had with many partners throughout the county already, that there just seems to be a lot of consensus that there are housing needs and they need to be addressed. So that is a grounding that not every community has, with that understanding that this is an issue that needs to be prioritized. This is a data piece from the State of Housing report that Minnesota Housing Partnership produces. This is just a profile specific to the Arrowhead region, talking about what are some of the issues and some of the needs. These will not be surprises to you, but some of the highlights from that report are that rental housing stock has been losing ground in the county. Some of that is due to the age of that housing stock. So we usually package up these into the regional view. Can you move forward? And then we get more into the local county level profile. So this is a snapshot that we like to highlight for counties where we can compare income data versus housing costs to tell us something about what are the needs for different types of housing. So here we have a renter snapshot on one side and an owner snapshot on the other. I think the bottom line for both of these is that the cost of housing is rising faster than incomes are rising. And so that's just the bottom line. As you could see from the slide on the owner side, there was a very huge increase in value, I think due to the seasonal properties that are popular in Cook County. Next slide. So we also like to ground ourselves in definitions, just to make sure we kind of understand some of these terms, some of which are common in the housing world and some of which are a little bit more terms of art. When we talk about affordable housing, this is actually one of these terms that does have a more common definition. It's based on some definitions based in federal programs. But that definition is generally understood that housing is affordable to a household or to an individual if your housing costs are not more than 30% of your income. So that's just kind of the rule of thumb, and that applies to all different levels of housing. And so then when you are paying more than that 30%, you are considered to be cost burdened. If you can go to the next slide. So this is just taking that a step further. What does that cost burden mean? So at the individual level or the family level, this means that you do not have potentially the income that you need for your household needs and expenses, for your medicine, sometimes for your food, for other needs, childcare. And then for the community, this means also that you have less money that is contributing to the general economy. So that's what happens when you're housing, when you are cost burdened and your housing costs more than that 30%. This is another key piece that is important, is to acknowledge that both past and present structural racism is a big part of what's happening with housing and the housing needs and who is most affected in Minnesota and then at the more local level. And so we see this in all areas. Home ownership is discussed a lot in this state because of the extreme disparities, but also just in terms of cost burden, who experiences that cost burden. And sometimes a term is used that's called severe cost burden. It's not on this slide. Severe cost burden happens when you're paying 50% of your household income on housing. And that also is something that happens in Cook County and around the state. Next slide. Another term that's common is workforce housing. This one is a little bit more what I would call a term of art. Sometimes workforce housing is a term applied to a specific program. So that's when it does have a little bit more of a specific definition, but also it's a term that is used generally and can be defined by community to prioritize certain types of housing. As we use it at Minnesota Housing Partnership, we talk about, workforce housing is housing for workers. So that applies when you think about who is the workforce, what are the kinds of jobs, and do you have housing that meets those needs? So here in this slide, we're taking again another look at jobs versus housing cost. Just a couple caveats on this. This is from our State of the State of Housing report, which is about to be updated. So this information will be updated actually within the next 2 months, and we'll be able to share that with you. I'm sure these job categories will shift and change due to the current circumstances. We added a couple additional top jobs that were a little bit more specific to what we understand have been the traditional top jobs in Cook County, as the jobs information is a little bit more pulled by deed on the regional level. But I think this still presents a picture that will resonate with you as to what are jobs that you see that are important in this region and in this community, and how does that match up to housing cost, and the housing cost is specific to Cook County. So if we want to move forward, so we turn from thinking about, what are the needs, what are the conditions, to then looking at what are some of the solutions. And the one that we have been exploring, again, is the Housing and Redevelopment Authority, and how could that potentially be a solution in Cook County. The slide before was just some logos, so you could see this is a popular structure that is utilized in peer communities around the region and around the state. Next slide. So what is an HRA? These are just some basics to ground us. It is like the EDA, it's an independent public entity. It is established, however, by a public body, and then it's accountable to that public body, such as the county or the city. An HRA, it plans and it administers housing and redevelopment programs. And, quite frankly, in the state of Minnesota, this is the predominant mechanism by which communities focus on housing. And you can see that there are quite a few HRAs throughout the state. This is just a snapshot of the scope of powers of an HRA. Many of those are similar to the EDA, although there are some slight differences. Many HRAs sell, buy, own, and lease property. There's rehabilitation programs, and designating blighted areas for redevelopment and rehab is another key function and scope of authority. Important is the ability to then use certain financing and funding tools. Here are some of the key ones that are utilized. Levy, that authority is similar, though a little bit different from the authority of the EDA. And in addition to some of the financing authorities, such as the special assessments and bonds, it is common that an HRA would then try to leverage its authority by applying for state and federal funds to complete its program objectives. Next slide. So here are some of the more common ways that HRAs designate their functions. Now, many do operate redevelopment or economic development programs that encompass housing. That can look a few different ways, but they're kind of in that development game. Many administer home ownership or promote home ownership programs of various types, including education programs. Owning and managing housing is a common function of HRAs, and that can be a variety of types of housing, as well as administering rental assistance programs. Next. So just kind of taking us pull back for a second, again, thinking through why is an HRA something that may be important to consider. These are some factors that are common throughout the state of Minnesota that are driving essentially the bottom line that the market is not producing the housing that our communities need. And that is the case as well in Cook County. From what we have been understanding is that all the types of housing, all the types of housing that serve your workforce and your community members are not coming through just pursuant to the market. And so what do we need to do then to stimulate that, to incentivize the housing, or just even prioritize what are the housing needs? Next. Another consideration is that an HRA can address solutions for a whole region or for the county as a whole. And that often is a popular way There are a lot of city level HRAs, but it is popular to do things at the county level for a variety of reasons. One of the things we have heard very strongly from the EDA and the partners we've been working with is that there is a desire for county level solutions. Mary mentioned Grand Portage at the beginning and just all the different regions. And with the HRA, you would be able to have that county level approach. These are some of the benefits of an HRA that may not be the what you see in the kind of the technical details in state law, but this ends up being sort of what a community kind of feels and understands may be those benefits realized from having an HRA. And some of it is really just the focus that you are able to have by focusing on housing and prioritizing housing issues. You are able to dedicate some resources. You are able to communicate to the outside world as well as to your own community that housing is a priority. And I mentioned before this leverage issue. This is a real thing that by being able to put some resource into an entity like an HRA Power, you are better positioned to be competitive for funds that may come from other sources. And then this long-term focus is also, I think, important to consider. It's frequent that, you know, kind of project by project things can move forward, but to have a longer-term focus, this would be an entity that would allow you to have that longer-term vision and realize the goals from that. We're just going to do a short snapshot of some HRAs that we have been talking to. Virginia HRA is one that is interesting because it actually came into being, as we understand, because of the desire in that community to own some property. Some of the property that the HRA today owns includes public property. It includes market rate property that is for seniors, as well as some student housing. And so they're kind of an interesting story. They also, in addition to development work, they administer housing assistance programs and then manage their properties. Next, Chisago County, this is a combined HRA EDA. We thought it was important to try to identify some examples of combined EDA HRAs because you do have an EDA today, and that may be one of the primary recommendations or kind of outcomes is that the vehicle that is desired for encompassing the HRA powers. Chisago County, they started with an HRA and then added the EDA. That has been a mechanism that has worked well for them. I will say it's not the most common mechanism around the state of Minnesota, but that may be because I think HRAs were available before the EDA, and so it's just kind of how things start sometimes. This is the Southeastern Minnesota Multi-County HRA. Is interesting because this is taking things a step beyond the county level to that broader multi-county region. This HRA encompasses several low-tax counties with small populations, but they have really leveraged their power together to develop multiple programs. They have some development programs. They have some programs administering housing choice vouchers. And they also, one of the counties that they work with is Goodhue County. That county has authorized a local housing trust fund. And through that fund, they are able to accumulate approximately $100,000 annually, which they have then dedicated to development projects, as well as emergency assistance aid for housing, and then supporting some home ownership goals. So there are some steps to establishing an HRA. The city or the county may grant HRA powers to an EDA. Again, that's something that we're really looking at, that relationship with the EDA here. Another option is to establish a separate HRA. And then again, there's certain processes where you have a public hearing, you pass a resolution, and you file that with deed. And that is part of getting you on your way. Oversight of the HRA is another issue, just to highlight. Like the EDA, the county or city or combined county-city appoints the board members and then has approval of certain actions, such as levies, some of the financing tools, and other major planning activities. And the extent of that relationship, I think, is a little bit based also on the culture of the community within which the HRA sits. Some of the considerations that we have been talking about with the partners here include what might be a geographic scope of an HRA and what would be the interaction, for example, with the Grand Marais, which does have an existing HRA authority that, as I understand, has not yet been, that's still retained within Grand Marais. There's another question, which is if the EDA was expanded to authorize HRA powers, would there be any desire to make any changes to the current formation or how you appoint that board? And another major question to consider is what might be some initial programs to prioritize if their HRA authority is encompassed. So as we've been hearing from some peer HRAs, they have emphasized that, you know, making some decisions, not trying to do everything at once, but really selecting, is there a key priority or priorities? And that focusing on that will be important to starting, you know, with something that's manageable and that then can be achieved. Just a little timeline. We have been making presentations, including, I think this is the last presentation to a major board or decision-making body. And following this, we are continuing then to pose what might be these questions that need to be answered and assist the EDA as well as the city and county in how they want to make recommendations and what additional information will be helpful in making recommendations back to the decision-making bodies. So I think that's it. I guess I would turn it back to Mary, to Mike, to identify if there are any additions they would like to make to the information we presented.
Mary, Mike?
I don't have anything to add. Maybe we can take down the slide so everyone can see everyone again. And at the last presentations to the county and the EDA, there was some time for Q&A. So I don't know if you want to, as long as we have Elizabeth and Ella here, that may be able to answer some questions better than myself.
I was kind of hoping that. Mike, do you have anything to add to the presentation?
Nope.
All right, so we'll open it up to questions. So that's a lot of information in that presentation. I'll just get us kicked off. And this might be more of a question for Mike and for Chris, but the current HRA authority that the city has, is that's I'm assuming that's just something that can be rolled into a wider EDA, you know, county city joint HRA program. Is there do you anticipate any difficulties with that?
I don't anticipate any. I haven't. We haven't asked Chris to look at that in any detail. So, you know, I don't want to hold him to what's the exact process we're going to have to follow. We do know that the city has had an HRA and that it has not been active for probably at least 25 years. that when the EDA was created, the special legislation specifically says that the city retains its HRA powers. So there's probably some legal work that needs to be done. I guess the strategy I've been suggesting through the conversation is, let's decide what we want it to be, and then we'll figure out how to do that. And I don't think that there'll be any issues with going any direction that you want to go on it.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Any other questions on the HRA conversation?
I'm wondering what benefits an HRA has over our current EDA setup that we have. How do these look different?
So that is something that we are honestly continuing to dive into. I think there are a lot of similarities. One, there are some technical differences. One that I mentioned was how the levy operates is a bit different. And sometimes I know some communities feel that there is an advantage to how the HRA levy operates versus the EDA, but honestly, they're pretty similar. Excuse me. I think some of the benefits may be a little bit more of how do you want to retain some focus to being able to say we're going to work on economic development activities, but we also want to make sure we have some focus for working on housing activities. And how do you organize and have the power to do both, but then retain that focus so you are able to make sure you're achieving those goals. So I think the message that we've heard from Mary is a bit of wanting to have all the authority that is available, making sure that's clear, but also what will be easiest within the current structure, with the caveat that we need to kind of be eyes wide open with how do we have focus that doesn't, that allows us to have that longer term vision and activities on the housing side. So it's not just 1 or 2 years of housing excitement and then it's, housing is hard work. I know you've worked on some development projects that have taken multiple years, that. But how do we set that structure for a long-term focus?
And I can't say for sure how many programs are out there, but I have looked at some programs, some grant programs for funding that are eligible to HRAs, but EDAs are not eligible. So it opens some doors for us to bring some additional resources in to help us develop projects.
So do we see us kind of having a HRA/EDA? Would it be one or the other? And then kind of what happens to the current EDA board if we go a different route?
That's exactly the question that we are trying to answer between now and the end of November. While we have Ella and Elizabeth to help us, that's what they're helping us work together as a community to make that decision, Kelly. If we want to do it, how do we want to do it? So this is just the beginning of that conversation with everyone.
So if I were to go ahead, Anton.
A couple questions. So the EDA doesn't have currently the ability to set any sort of levy. The EDA's budget is set. We have a budget request through the county, and that's how the EDA's budget is set. So by making it a joint EDA HRA, it would give greater power as far like currently. If the EDA, which we've done, I've been on there for 6 years. We worked through a bit of that and several projects, but the dollars that we plugged in then to be for projects, and it was really specific. Now we have a placeholder for housing for as opportunities arise each budget cycle. but it's really at the whim of what the county says on if we say we want $50,000 or we want $100,000 or if we want $300,000. If we were to all of a sudden ask for larger amounts to be able to use for projects, it really almost before the season or before that, the project would really have to kind of be in front of us, similar to what we did with One Roof, right? We had that information in front of us. We had the plan in place. There was a lot of things that already happened. So when we took that to the county board, it was clear like, hey, this is what we're asking for very specifically versus I'm just making sure I understand this. So the HRA function of it, we would have the ability, and by we, I mean if I'm on the EDA still, the EDA would, if we decide to join the two, or currently as it sits as the city of Grand Marais, since we are the only HRA, we would have the ability to levy certain amounts that would be used for that, and then also have access to different grant funding and different things that are out there. Is that right? I mean, it gives, I mean, I guess that's my question with the EDA. Like, we don't really have, that's a whole nother power, right? I mean, it's a whole nother.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding your question, because with an HRA levy, it's, you still need to have the consent of the authorizing body to the levy. I just want to make sure I'm clear about that. So in some ways that is similar. It's kind of a little bit different way the approval happens, but still in the end, you have to go, if it's the county, you go to the county and you present, and they have to consent to the levy. It is established a little bit differently than the EDA levy, although that might be kind of technical in the weeds a little bit right now. But you would have some similarity there. I think one of the questions for Grand Marais is, would you want to retain your HRA powers for yourselves? I assume that means like you would want to operationalize it a little bit more. Or would you want to essentially say, no, we want to be part of doing this as a county, which is another way that often this happens. And then, you give up a little bit, you give up some local control. If you do that, the benefit is you get the bigger, levy of the county then.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Do we know, was it, I mean, so 25 years, Mike, is what you said is when Grand Marais, or thereabouts, the HRA was established. Do you know, was there, like, was that just because that's what everybody was doing 25 years ago, was forming an HRA, or was there like projects based around that? Is that like with some of the, I'm thinking of trying to date some of the, oh no, those buildings are older than that. Just trying to think of
25 years, Anton. That's the end of the story, not the beginning. I don't know when it was established.
Okay.
And one of my strategies in this conversation has been, it's not worth going back and trying to put together all the details about it.
Oh no,
I mean, we don't have any of them.
But yeah, I mean, that, I guess that was just, it was more of a general question. I think I can see it. I mean, I can see positives to really both. Not that we have to make any sort of, we're not making decisions, but discussion wise, I mean, I can certainly see benefits to both scenarios. I think the idea of a countywide HRA that doesn't involve the EDA, I think Howard brought this up at yesterday's meeting. The idea of finding more volunteers or people willing to serve on boards seems maybe difficult. I guess I don't know what the amount of time involved in HRA is, but I know just even in the having the housing piece on top of the other things we were trying to do on the EDA board, it really occupied a lot of our time. And in turn, then that turned on to, what we ended up seeing on council as things were moved through EDA and looking at different funding things. I mean, it added to the amount of work we had to do too. So I see this a completely separate entity as difficult, not impossible, but difficult. I think the combination, because of the work that has been done by the EDA, I think it seems like a good tie-in, and I think that the broader ability to serve the whole county, and the shared costs, and the just the greater ability to be able to maybe generate grant, the grant funding, the dollars that are available out there, having a broader base, right? I mean, we only have 5,000 people in the county, but that's 3 times the amount of the city, right? I mean, in other words, 1,300 or something in town. So I don't know. I mean, I think, and I guess to try and form that as another board or organization that is controlled by the city and us as a council having to make those, I think that the county would still be interested in trying to do it. So it just seems like, why would the county have one and the city have one? And I don't know. I guess taking it in from what you guys talked about yesterday, Elizabeth and Ella, and again hearing it again tonight. I mean, I think it's all really super interesting, and I think it's I'd be excited to see if it's possible, after conversations with Chris and whatever else we have to do legally, to look and see what can happen together with the EDA.
I would have to say that in my thoughts about the EDA/HRA, that what I would seek to find or accomplish in the potential arrangement of an HRA EDA is some access to more significant resources, and resources as in information, funds, models, etc., and also efficiencies of operations, so that we could have the EDA and the HRA be able to pool resources instead of have them working, like Anton was saying, in separate places, trying to work on different things. We've been able to accomplish, I think, some pretty good stuff in the past couple of years with the EDA and the housing developments partnerships that we've made. I think that if I'm understanding the information about an HRA correctly, that the establishment of an HRA would only complement those efforts, and would make it easier to do that. It would put more resources, put more authority into those development opportunities. So as we continue to move forward, I definitely would appreciate Elizabeth, you and Ella and Mary, keeping the council up to speed on the things that you find out about potential models, and and James, you're on this call too. You're not on my screen. You're hidden because you've been so quiet. But I intend to have some conversations with you as well about like what's happening at the county level, so that we can make sure we keep this information and the energy moving on this, to see if this is a good fit for how we can better accomplish our goals on the city level. So that's my summary of it. Does any of the other counselors have anything else you'd like to put out there for this conversation? Seeing nothing. Any closing comments anybody got here?
I'll just say that, yes, we will definitely keep everyone in communication. As I mentioned, James and Mike and I are all working very closely with Elizabeth and Ella through this step by step. And if any of you are especially interested, you're more than welcome to join our work group. That would be fine. But yes, communication, it's all about communication. So stay tuned. Thank you for your time this evening.
I mean, I guess the last thing I'd say, I'll zip it, but I think that the stuff that we talked about and all the work that the Planning and Zoning Commission did with some of the changes that we made within the city, I really think that this seems like a pretty good opportunity for, you know, because those things are in place to try and ease some of the burdens. But there's still burdens, right? There's costs, there's all the things that Elizabeth talked about. And I think this is, I mean, pretty awesome. It could, you know, I think it just seems like a good opportunity, and I appreciate Mary and Mike and James and Elizabeth, you know, you guys talking through this, and it'll be exciting to see what comes of it.
Yeah, I just want to jump on with what Anton said there. I think, you know, all the work that we were doing on planning and zoning to now come in with this, I feel would be it would strongly complement all the work that we had been doing over the last few years. So I'm pretty excited to see what we can have happen.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you for your time tonight, Elizabeth, Ella, Mary, and I suppose James as well. I suppose that's why he showed up. So we're going to move on to other topics. So you're welcome to stay on or check off. So
thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. So here's the next question for the council. Do we want to go? We probably should do the conversation about board appointments next, and then we can do the conversation about social media policy, and then about the snow plowing at the end. Does that work for everyone? All right, we'll do that.
This is James. I heard Councillor Swearingen say that I might be useful in the snowplow discussion. I'm not sure if that's true, but I'd be happy to stay on for that.
Okay, you're definitely welcome to. It may be a little bit, if that's all right.
Sure.
Okay. So, Mike, do you want to jump into the conversation on citizen appointments? We'll do that first, and then we can jump into the council appointments after resolution for that.
Well, let's start with the easy ones. We have a term open on the EDA, and we have one applicant for that position, Virginia Palmer.
Are there any motions or discussion on that?
I'd make a motion to appoint Virginia Palmer to the Cook County Grand Marais Economic Development Authority.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Oh, geez.
Everybody second.
Well, that's handy. Who are
We
we
don't
gonna
even
write
have
that down?
we don't even have to vote now.
Yeah, right. Doesn't matter. Well, who are we gonna give the second to? We give it to Michael because he pointed at himself. I guess whatever. Kim, you write down whoever you want and just tell us who it is.
Kim, girls stick together, don't they?
You want to be on this, right? All right. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on this nomination or on this appointment? Hearing none, go to the roll call vote. Anton, your vote.
Hi.
Kelly, your vote.
Aye.
Michael, your vote.
Aye.
Craig, your vote.
Aye.
I am an aye as well. Congratulations to Virginia, and move on to the next one.
And thank you.
I'm going to skip ahead now to the park board. We have 2 3-year openings. We have one incumbent, Rita Hinchman, who has expressed a willingness to continue on as for another term. And we have a new applicant, Frankie Jarko.
Any discussion on this? Discussion and or motions? Boy.
I just had it in what Frankie wrote on hers, and I have no problem having her there. You know, people volunteering their time, I think, is awesome. But one of her comments was to beautify our parks, but she does recognize, right, that we are operating a campground, which is over $1 million operation of revenue. We've got the marina, the golf course, the whole part of it. It's more than just talking about taking care of our parks downtown.
I would assume she's well aware of that. I would also say I feel pretty confident that the existing park board structure will make sure that the focus is maintained on its operations. That's really a lot of what they talk about right now. You know, Craig can probably say more about that if you want.
Any other comments or questions on park board appointments or motions? Hint, hint.
I would move that we appoint Francis.
And do you want to do just one or both? Because Rita needs to be appointed for a second term too, as well.
Oh,
If-
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Rita as well.
Okay, cool. So there's a motion for the two appointments to the park board. Anyone have a second for that?
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, we'll go to the roll call vote. Anton, your vote.
Aye.
Kelly, your vote.
Aye.
Michael, your vote.
Aye.
Craig, your vote.
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. Thank you to Frankie and Rita. And moving right along.
So the last of the simple conversations, we have 2 3-year terms, except we only have one on the PUC. And thankfully we have one applicant, Tracy Benson.
Explain that again. 2 3-year terms, but really just one.
Yeah, there's only one. We have 3 people on the board. You're going to fill one with the city councilor soon, although 18 years of Tim Kennedy, I don't know how anybody would ever want to fill that position. I wish you all well on that. And then Ann Pasas, which you appointed last year, is in the other spot.
Okay. So we have Tracy Benson as the applicant for the Public Utilities Commission. Does anybody have
I
a
motion to approve Tracy.
There you go. There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, moving to the vote. Anton, your vote.
Aye.
Kelly, your vote.
Aye.
Michael, your vote.
Aye.
Craig, your vote.
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. That appointment is confirmed. Thank you, Tracy.
Can I ask
Oh, go ahead.
a quick question? So just making sure I understand this. So we still need one person for a 3-year term on the public PUC, right?
No, you don't.
And
You
we
don't
still-
need anybody else.
That's going to
No?
be one of us.
It'll be one of you.
Oh, okay. But we still will need one
One
person
hard.
for planning commission.
Correct.
You're going to need
Put one of us on
multiple
there.
people. So here, let's talk about that next, because that is one of our more complicated conversations. We have 2 3-year term openings right now. We also have a very likely 3rd opening from a member who is not living in the city limits anymore. So that means that we need a lot of folks on the planning commission. We actually probably need to ask Michael to stay on his term that he was appointed to and appoint another city councilor just so that we can have a quorum. So we don't normally have 2 city councilors on the planning commission, but there's no prohibition from doing that. So I think at this point, because we don't have anybody else to serve, even if it's just for a temporary while you're looking out for new candidates, we need another city councilor on the planning commission.
I'm interested.
I'm interested too. Yeah, Kelly, go for it if you are. But that's
I guess, I mean, I don't know if it'll end up being 3 years or not, because obviously I'm only left on council for 2 years right now. I think.
Well, let's use it as the You can be the council appointee, which is then a year-to-year appointment.
Okay.
And we can take that up when we talk about the council appointee positions. So that's just the understanding here is that Michael is currently a citizen appointee, and even though he was elected to the council, that doesn't mean that he has to step away from his citizen appointment. Oftentimes in the past, we probably would have had him do that. And if he wanted to continue to serve, he would have been the council appointee, just because we like to have no more than one city councilor. But at this point, we're going to need at least 2 just to do business. So then the last tricky conversation is the library board. We actually have 3 terms, one 1 year, one 2 year, one 3 years. So that means all 3 of the citizen appointees that we've made to that board are no longer serving. One of them is term limited out. So she served 2 3-year terms and needs to take at least a year off before she would be able to serve again. And 2 others resigned in 2020 for different reasons at different times. So we need 3 folks. We have 2 applicants. One of which is the spouse of one of our library employees. And so I had a conversation with Cooper about that and recommended to him that it would be a really bad idea to appoint him to the library board for a variety of reasons. He'll be faced with a number of potential legal conflict of interests when they're talking about budgets, for instance, considering that the budget also includes the wages that his spouse makes. And it would also put him and his spouse and frankly the rest of our management team in the library in some uncomfortable positions if we ever did have to talk about budget cuts or staffing cuts or disciplinary issues or other things. So I just think it's a terrible idea. If I was the library director, I would really be uncomfortable with the idea of having one of my staff members' spouses serve on the board that I worked with.
Yeah, that definitely puts us in an odd position. Go ahead.
I agree with Mike, guys. You know, from an HR perspective, and then trying to deal with things. As much as Cooper thinks that he could be, you know, follow protocol, you just never know what's going to get thrown at you. The things that might possibly come up, you can't envision. And then you have to make a tough choice. And so I think that if there's other options that it would be a better route. And, you know, I know Cooper is a stand-up guy, but I don't want to put anybody in a position to make a choice that's very uncomfortable for them, whether it's him, his wife, Amanda, or any of us. So I think it's best to protect all of our interests and tell him, you know, thank you, but politely decline.
Anton, you had something else?
No, it's all right. I agree with Kelly. I'd make a motion to, I got to get back to the right email, to the other fellow person that was good, Kevin. I'd make a motion. So then the question is, do we pick how long his term would be? I guess, like, how do I make that motion?
I'd make it, appoint him to the 3-year term.
I was going to say, okay.
That's more important, yeah.
Yeah, all right. I would make a motion to appoint Kevin Lavoie to the 3-year term on the library board.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I will second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none. Anton, your vote.
Aye.
Kelly, your vote.
Aye.
Michael, your vote.
Aye.
Craig, your vote.
Aye.
And I am an aye as well for Mr. Lavoie, or Lavore. Who knows how I pronounce it. So that appointment carries. Just to follow up on the other appointment, just to get the temperature of the council, are we in agreement then that the conflict is too great for Mr. Ternez to for that to be approved? Seems like I'm seeing some nodding. It just
Yes,
seems like,
I think so.
okay. All right. Well, I definitely appreciate his willingness.
Yeah, definitely.
And this is another shout out to the community too, that we do need more people to participate in these things. And they do take some time, but they are incredibly rewarding in their own ways. So, all right. So, Mike, that's all we have to do for citizen appointments, correct?
Well, that's all you get to do tonight. You still have 4 more people to find. So we need planning commissioners. We need library board members.
Okay, we'll work on that.
And moving on to council appointments is next.
Well, Kelly, looks like you have something to say.
Oh, planning and zoning is that and PUC are Wednesdays. Is that correct? First Wednesdays?
That's right. So right now, planning and zoning meets the first Wednesday at 4 p.m. and the PUC meets the first Wednesday at 3 p.m. That's been their schedule.
All right, so let's move on to the council appointments. So this council appointments here. So we've got a couple of things that are going to change pretty significantly in this list. Namely, the places where Tim's name has been fit in, and I also have a request that I would like to make to the council, which is for someone else to step onto the position for the library board. I have been serving on the library board for approximately 10 years now, and I would like to step off that, work on something else. The library board is an amazing group of people. They work with an amazing resource in our community. It's incredibly rewarding work. And I would hope that someone would be willing to take that opportunity to do that work on that board. I would like to move on to some other things. So basically what we're looking at is we're looking at some reshuffling, someone to serve on the library board. I am definitely willing to serve on. Well, Kelly indicated that she would be interested in the Planning Commission. I am definitely interested in the Public Utilities Commission. Those are places where Tim's name are: active living, safe routes to school. That's something that I have basically been working with already, so I would feel comfortable working with that as well. But I also don't want to hog all the good stuff. So, so if anyone else would like to serve on any of those positions, definitely throw your name in there, and or if there's any other changes to board structures that you'd be willing to have, let me know. Because Michael, you've got to jump onto some of these because
right.
That's your job.
Yeah. So I'll continue to do planning and zoning, obviously, and then also do the PUC. Is that correct?
Well, we're trying to decide that right now. So.
Okay, I thought you were saying slide me into that, so I was just.
We're just trying to figure out where to slide you into, because I actually wouldn't mind taking over the PUC and then vacating the library board. So unless the other counselors have any changes in the positions that you're currently serving, then that could be, if you're willing, Michael, you could jump onto the library board and do that work. Unless there's something else that you're super excited about that you want to petition for here.
Well, that'd be fine with me. I'd be willing to do a library.
Anton?
I guess I'd just ask if, Craig and Kelly, if you guys where are you guys at with stuff you're on? Kelly, I don't know. I know my ARDC. I don't do that. I just can't.
North Shore Management Board, I wish I could. They do a doodle poll and they tend to meet on Wednesdays that we have council. And they actually I got a packet last week, and they actually have some stuff going on that's very pertinent to what's happening with Lake Superior, Shoreline. I think that Ginny Storley attends now. I know Bobby Deschamps used to, but there's some things going on that it would be great if we had somebody who could attend. I'd love to. They end up being on council nights, and it's like, do I give up one for the other? Because then I'd be at council once a month, and that just doesn't work. So I have not been able to attend the management boards. And if it continues to fall on Wednesdays, obviously it doesn't work for any of us to try to get to. Even if they meet Wednesday, and then a Thursday, you're missing 2 meetings to get to one. Again, I don't find value in it. So I don't know if we try to figure something out where we can kind of share or get updates through the county, possibly through Ginny. You know, if I need to be a liaison, then at least Ginny passes things on to me and I find out that, hey, we really need to be a part of this and somehow work things through, but it's just not working to be a part of that board when we're meeting on the same nights. The YMCA, obviously, we really haven't done anything since COVID struck. As far as the advisory board, we get updates here and there, but we have not had even Zoom meetings, so that's been pretty nil. So if there's a way I can figure out how to do something more with the North Shore Management Board and then the planning and zoning, that's probably what I kind of do with my schedule working full-time for someone else.
Okay. That's good. Well, I guess I would like to stay on the park board. I think that's working out pretty good. I enjoy doing that. I was also considering possibly the Public Utilities Commission. I thought that would be a good thing to learn more about. And I also asked a question about the Public Utilities Board. I don't think we've ever had a meeting, but it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to schedule a meeting once in a while, or not. Or why do we have a Public Utilities Board if we never meet?
That's right. So what is the Public Utilities Board? It is the board that would hear if there was a dispute that a customer had with the Public Utilities Commission. So
Okay.
It's another layer of the city council's oversight where you would then hear that dispute. And we haven't had one for a number of years. So
Okay.
we haven't met. I can't remember the last time. It might have been 10 years now.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'm just throwing my hat in the ring for the PUC.
Okay.
Got to vote on it. We got to vote on it, but
Yep. So let's look a little bit more at this stuff here.
what else we got?
Well, I mean, pretty much the rest of this stuff, we just go from the top down. So EDAs, Anton, library board, if Michael's willing to do that, then that fills a spot there. ARDC, like you said, Anton, that one is difficult to participate in, as is the North Shore Management Board. Those are two that we might have to try and figure out some kind of alternative service to. Park Board, Craig, I think you're doing a great job on that. So and you are enjoying it. So that's not a problem. Personnel Committee is myself and Kelly, and that seems to be a fit for that. Planning Commission, Kelly, you said you would be interested in stepping into that in a somewhat temporary, but maybe not temporary basis. Public Utilities Commission, both myself and Craig are interested in that, so we'll have to have a conversation about that. Public Utilities Board doesn't seem like that's going to change. Safety Committee, Anton. These other boards down here, the North House Folk School Liaison, you know, I have been receiving the emails and checking them, and and basically just staying abreast of the developments there. They also have not been doing a ton with since COVID has been an issue. CCLEP, similarly, I've been staying abreast of their operations, but have not really participated a great deal. Safe routes to school, active living, that stuff is, it's kind of situational, I would say is the best way to put that, as is the Northwoods Food Project. I don't think that there's been a communication from them for a year or better. YMCA, Kelly just spoke to. Cook County Parks and Trails, Tim was the representative there. So that's another part that we're going to need to find a representative for. So the liaisons, those are the ones that are, that start adding up really, apart from the boards and commissions that we have listed above. And there's a number of other ones that are not on this list, like the Creative Economy Collaborative. I attended the downtown business meetings for quite some time as both a business member and a city council representative. So there's a number of other ones that we'll have opportunities to serve on.
I would throw out there that I went to a fair majority, or most of, until they stopped having them, the Cook County Parks and Trails.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be up for, if that fires back up again, taking over. I know both Tim and I were at that. I'd be happy to do that, and I'm fine with staying. I mean, not fine. I'm grateful to stay on the EDA, and then again, just trying to figure out how I can coordinate ARDC, and then I guess if there's anything else between the rest of you that we can't find, I can look and see. But we can talk about whatever else. But otherwise, I'd be happy to jump into the Parks and Trails and stay everywhere else.
Anton, I was just wondering, what's been hard about ARDC? Is it just the timing of the meetings, or?
Well, I think part of it earlier on, it was pre-COVID. It was, you're kind of all over the Arrowhead. So sometimes, the ones that I think there was one down at, I don't even know, Cove Point Lodge. That was probably like the closest one. I mean, otherwise you're, out on the range and, but yeah, I mean, I guess the interactions I've had with ARDC have always been positive. So that's part of why I showed interest originally. And also with with being on the EDA, obviously ARDC is just a more broad-based, maybe not version of that, but organization that involves with development. And that's where it was a good fit. And they've had Marais on that too. And she could probably, I don't know, maybe we could carpool once we can ride together again, Mary.
If I could just jump in quick about that. So the ARDC board meets on Thursday mornings at 10 a.m. And all of our meetings, of course, are Zoom now, so it's much easier. And the North Shore Management Board meets in the evening, as you said, Kelly, but those are two separate meetings. So just to make that clarification, Ginny Storley and I typically attend all of the ARDC board meetings, and then the board members are also invited to the commission meetings. So there's once a month on a Thursday, one or the other of those meet, and they do move around when we're physically meeting. But I have a sense that even post-COVID, a lot of us are going to request that we continue to meet virtually just because it's so much more cost effective to not do all that traveling.
Right.
So I just would offer that to all of you as you think about the ARDC. To have the city would be a presence at those meetings would be great. Or, we can just be more conscious or careful about reporting back to you guys if there's stuff that is relevant, specific to Grand Marais.
Well, I think I would be interested in the RDC if you're not, Anton. If you want to keep going, that's totally fine. But if you
no, go for it.
Okay. You. All right.
Okay, Kim, I hope you're making all these notes. This is a lot of moving around. So I guess let's just look through the list here then, because then it seems like we've got most of that stuff figured out. The Public Utilities Commission is probably going to be the one where we have to make some kind of a vote on this. I do feel pretty strongly about participating in that commission. So I'll definitely retain my name in that list to work on that. I think that the Public Utilities Commission has a lot of really exciting and interesting opportunities in the next several years, and I think that having worked on all the climate action plan stuff and being the rep for CCLEP for a number of years, I feel like I have a lot of the information and a lot of innovative concepts and ideas that could really help that commission move forward. So that's my pitch on it. I'm not going to make a motion for myself to be on that board. I don't know, Craig, if you want to toss something out there too, and then we'll just see what happens. It's a great position to find ourselves in, that whomever participates in these boards, is a high quality candidate. So I definitely I'm appreciative that we find ourselves in a situation where there really isn't a bad decision. So.
Yeah, I agree with you on your comments. I'm just interested because I think it's a very important piece to our city, and it's something that I've always wanted to gain more knowledge about and to be more functional within it. That's basically my interest in it, and it's an important piece that keeps our city running. So I just throwing that out there for you. So yeah, my interest is still pretty high to be a part of that if it's possible. That's all.
Okay.
So,
Our public utilities, that has to be our top revenue department. Is that correct? The same, Mike?
Yeah, definitely.
That's what I thought. That, then the liquor store, then the park.
Kind of a wash on those, probably.
Well, there's more revenue at the liquor store, but there's more income at the park.
I just said where the revenue is. I didn't ask who won or lost.
Yeah, so I don't know if the rest of the counselors, if you guys have any further questions, or if you just want to, make a motion for someone here for this position, or, I mean, really what we can do a couple of different things. We can approve the slate, like, because Kim's been making the notes on who said that they're willing to do things. So I guess we don't really need a motion to say who's going to be on the public utilities, but we do have to. If we don't make a motion, then we have to reach consensus on who's going to be the person on that.
How long is the person appointed to the Public Utilities Board then?
The Public Utilities Commission, I assume, right? And it's like the rest of these are annual appointments that the council makes. So you'll revisit this again next year. But in practice, it generally means that the person stays on for, Tim's temporary appointment was 18 years.
Yeah,
Talk about term limits.
Yeah, we're talking about Tim too. So that's that's a bit of a different conversation probably. Yeah, so this is one of those situations where, I've been doing this for 6 years. I still don't know all the different situations because, how to handle different situations. But anyway, go ahead, Kelly.
Well, Craig's got 4 more years to go with council. In theory, Anton, Jay, and I could be gone in 2. So I don't know. I guess if you want to learn something, I would motion for Craig maybe to be appointed. I don't know how you do this, but.
Well, that's a motion. Is there a second for that? And I do believe that in a situation like this, Craig can vote for himself. Yes. So.
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none. Okay, so then we'll have a roll call vote. So.
Aye.
Okay, thanks, Anton. Jump the gun. Kelly?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Craig? Oh, muted.
can I vote for myself?
You can vote for yourself, yeah.
Okay, aye.
And because I still want to do it, I'm going to vote nay, but that's nothing personal against you, Craig.
Nothing taken.
Good. So, all right. So then that is, that's that. So now I believe that sets the slate. So we can, now we can have a motion to approve the appointments as noted. So does anybody have a motion burning in their soul for that?
I will make the motion. So moved.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
Oh, I got Craig first. So motion and a second. Any further discussion on the slate? Just have to say thank you very much to everyone who is taking these different positions. Michael, thank you for stepping into things. It's going to be really fun, I think. So, all right, moving on. Any other comments? Nope. Anton, your vote.
Aye.
Kelly, your vote.
Aye.
Michael, your vote.
Aye.
Craig, your vote.
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. The slate of candidates or slate of appointments is approved. All right. So then we're going to move now to the social media policy. So I don't know, Patrick, if you want to break down this social media policy for us or not. Council members, you have you received the memo with the draft policy on it. The purpose of this policy is, as written into the memo, eliminating redundant or defunct city websites or social media accounts. And Patrick, maybe you can give us some examples of those when we get to the discussion on this. Management controls for city websites or social media accounts becoming inaccessible to city staff. Also would be nice to hear what those examples are. Abusive, obscene, or defamatory comments from public on city social media posts. Those are the things that we seek to solve. And then there's a lot of very interesting language in the policy itself, I think. So Patrick, why don't you jump in and explain it, and we'll go from there.
The examples, I don't have any for the first two. I don't really have any specific examples that have happened here at the city, but they've definitely happened in my career to different businesses that I've worked for, organizations where like a staff member will leave and have a social media page associated with their personal account, and then the organization no longer has access to update it and has to, have a long process with the business that, if it's whichever social media company it is, there's usually a long, arduous process to regain control of those accounts if the staff member is not willing to work with the organization to get those credentials back. And then in terms of eliminating redundant or defunct city websites or social media accounts, that's really just so that we don't, having a process in place so that we don't create them, because currently I don't think there's anything that we have existing that isn't being used, but it's possible that in the future there may be websites or social media accounts that are no longer being used but are out there possibly coming up on search engine results or things that displaying information that's no longer accurate. And we want to make sure that we have kind of an inventory of what's out there and making sure that we're getting old information pulled off of the web so it's not confusing people. And then in terms of the abusive, obscene, and defamatory comments from the public, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. It's pretty rare with what we've had going on so far, but there are occasions where there are comments that are inappropriate that it would be nice to have the ability and the precedent to remove or moderate those comments. So that's, I think, all the explanation I have, other than this language for the policy, is started based on League of Minnesota Cities model documents, and then was filtered through sitting down with all the department heads and kind of making little adjustments here and there to because we really had these three goals, and there was some language in there that like created more things that we felt weren't necessary to regulate.
Does the council have you had a chance to read through this and make notes for comments? There are a couple of things that popped up for me that that I wanted to make comments on, but I'll open it up to the council first, see if, you know, I'm assuming that maybe you guys picked up the same stuff if you did. Anybody? Well, I'll jump in with mine then. And I don't think that this is really a big deal, but it is something that's that I think is pretty pretty pertinent to us as council members, and, you know, having active social media accounts ourselves, is to note the part that talks about discussing us as council members discussing city issues on social media from our private accounts. And, you know, there's a bit of gray area in there from what I understand, that that we have the ability to say what we want on our private accounts, but that we have to be very careful about drawing that line between speaking for the city, unless we are saying, you know, like repeating approved content. And even in that case, I don't know, Patrick, how you would interpret that, but it seems like, you know, it would be better to refer people to the original content rather than repeat it ourselves. So that's one of the things that how I read that policy seems to be pertinent for us to talk about.
Jay, can I ask quick? I just want to make sure you're referring to the statement that I think you're referring to. So it's in the first page of the policy, in the scope paragraph, where it says the policy also covers the private use of the city's social media accounts by all city representatives, including blah, blah, council members. Yep. So is that the section that got your attention?
That is correct.
Okay. So we're talking about the private use of the city's social media accounts. So I think that we don't have any interest in regulating any of your own social media accounts, even though you are probably going to be talking about city stuff on them. That's not the intention of this policy. The intention of this policy is to say how we're going to regulate the city's social media accounts. So if you were posting, you know, privately on a city page, that is something that this policy would cover. If you're just out there using Facebook and saying whatever you want, that's not something that this city, you know, that we're interested in regulating at all.
For me, it seemed like more just an awareness piece for the counselors to be aware that that's something to be paying attention to. Right.
I think a good rule is to keep your Facebook, your Twitter, your whatever to your own self and stuff. If it regards other boards and things you serve, tell people to call you or email you. But my personal page has always been my personal page, and I'll share city Facebook things there, like if we have job openings or meetings or we're looking for input, but I don't post city business on my personal page because it just offers up way too many chances for people to put negative stuff or false things, and I don't want to sit and spend my whole day correcting rumors on my personal page. So I don't post it there. I don't have any problems there.
There you go. Yeah. Does anybody else have any thoughts or any conversations on the policy as it's written. Is there anything else? Well, I don't know, James, if you have anything to say about this as well. I think that's why you're sticking around too. No, you're not sticking around for that. You're sticking around for snow. That's right. But does anybody else have any thoughts on this? Because this is a policy decision. It just needs to be adopted.
Do we need a motion?
Mm-hmm.
I will motion to I will motion to approve the policy.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Anton, your vote.
Aye.
Kelly, your vote.
Aye.
Michael, your vote.
Aye.
Craig, your vote.
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Thank you, Patrick, for putting the time in to adjust that language for our organization. I hope that it serves you well, serves all of us well.
Thank you.
And then we will move along to the snowplowing conversation. So the gist of this conversation is that the Snowmobile Club has been grooming for the last 15 plus years has been grooming the north side of the highway, and now we've asked them to groom the south side of the highway so that it so that the north side can be cleared for pedestrians, and that is part of the conflict here. Part of what's being brought up is that the south side, they're saying that it's not the south side doesn't offer enough space for a full grooming to take place, and the request is to move it back to the other side. So go ahead, let's have some discussion on this. I certainly have my own thoughts about this, but I'm curious about it. What you guys think?
Yeah, I guess so. When was the plan changed to make the snowmobiles on the south side? When did that happen? Because I guess that was surprising to me. I was in Napa one morning and getting something, and they're like, "Hey, how come they just plowed the north side? I thought that was a snowmobile route." And I was like, "I don't know. That's a good question." And then I noticed that the south side hasn't been done at all. So is that the south side hasn't been done because that is the snowmobile route now? But it also seems like that's a 5-foot sidewalk versus the other one being wider on the north side, which makes more sense for, like they say, Paul said in his letter, two-way traffic and a groomer to get through there. So anyway.
I haven't personally gone over there to inspect the south side to see what the grades are and how wide that swath over the sidewalk is.
It's a narrow sidewalk.
Well, I know it's a narrow sidewalk, but the expectation is to groom over the top of the sidewalk and the area around it, and not to have it stuck solely on the sidewalk. And I'm just not certain what how wide of a flat spot that is there, to basically verify the claim that the groomer can't get through there. I mean, I know what kind of groomer they have. It's a big machine. So I don't doubt that anything less than a full size path, like what they have on the north side, can crimp things. But part of the reason why that decision was made to move things to the south side was because then it would give it would move the snowmobiles to the side of the street, the town side of the street, much earlier, so they don't have to cut across Highway 61 at an uncontrolled, an unidentified space. Like at the base of the Gunflint, it would be much easier for them to get across to the other side and stay on that side all the way into town. Than what has happened in the past that I've noticed is that they go down the north side and then try and make quick shots across to the gas stations and to the restaurants and things like that, which has been, there's been a number of times that I've almost, had a situation with a snowmobile who, has gotten out into the street and then hasn't been able to turn because there's no snow, and then just kind of like slides into whatever's in front of them. So, so that's that's a little bit more about the rationale for putting it on the south side. Of course, there are shortcomings for that as well. The sidewalk on the south side, as you mentioned, is narrow, and it's also made out of concrete instead of asphalt. You know, concrete takes more damage than asphalt does stereotypically with studs from snowmobiles. So there are other things to consider in that as well. I think that the main points here are that we have pedestrian infrastructure and we have workable snowmobile infrastructure as well. So,
well, I don't know who made the decision to make the change. Obviously, you know, we haven't talked about it here at all. I kind of like Paul's point that it has been in that place. I think that overall it's worked. People are used to it, who historically use it. We're lucky so far, knock on wood, this year that we haven't had a ton of snow. Pedestrians can be out using our things. We haven't had a problem clearing off pathways or sidewalks or anything else so far. Mother Nature has been nice. You know, the asphalt part, there was a deep base when we've had snow on the walking path that was built for walking, and then the snowmobiles in the winter. You know, I know that there's a lot of traffic, but living in town, I've always watched, whether it's a snowmobiler or a biker, somebody out walking, motorcycles, I try and keep my eye on what people are doing so that I can react to them a little bit, knowing that I can control how I drive. I know what the speed limit is in town if I'm following it. So, you know, if it's something that I think that we're helping our snowmobile community who comes and spends a lot of dollars here in lodging and restaurants and probably our own liquor store and different things, then I'm willing to work with the snowmobile club in trying to route them the proper way, get them where they need to be going, keep them safe, keep our citizens in vehicles safe. I don't see a big need for the change, but maybe somebody can tell me something different. You know, we haven't had really accidents, so I don't know if that was part of it or if there was a need, but I think that everybody was kind of used to a pattern.
and I'm curious too. It doesn't appear to me that this message is coming from the snowmobile club, so it might not be a bad idea for us to reach out to the snowmobile club and actually make sure that this is accurate. I agree with you, Kelly, though. If the snowmobile club says, hey, you know, this is posing problems for our grooming, then it's pretty clear that, you know, we can have workable pedestrian infrastructure on the south side. I think that's doable. So there's enough room for us to accomplish the goals on both sides. I think that we just need to make sure that this is actually an issue.
Well, do we need to have the snowmobile club's approval, or is not a citizen who is a business owner, obviously has a question or an issue, we can't take it up here? Or
well, we certainly can. I'm just wondering if the snowmobile club actually shares his opinion. So if they would prefer to have it on the south side, then it seems like that's a better place for it to be. So
I mean, you think about coming across the Gunflint, and the trail comes down to the east side of the Gunflint right now by the sign, right? If they cross over, they can't cross over there. They're on private property. Then you're hitting into the Border Patrol station, which I don't know that they can go along. Somehow they have to get past Subway on the south side, come up through Napa, and then hit. So I feel like that's not, at least that area is definitely not the best route. And we're crossing private property.
So that's Kelly, I think that's the reason why when Paul talks about the way it's been for 15 plus years, well, of course it's been that way for 15 plus years, because for the history of Highway 61, the south side's been a ditch and with some significant slopes in some parts of it, like you're talking about over by the Border Patrol. When this new highway design was created, one of the thoughts of having a full length pedestrian route and put it on the south side was that that would create a space for either pedestrians or snowmobiles on the south side. And now there is a place for snowmobiles to go, and it's all inside of the highway right away. They don't have to go on private property on the south side, the full length of the highway as well. And that what was anticipated was this very conversation could happen and could happen regularly. This is a council policy decision. You can tell us to plow one or both or neither side of the highway, and that's what we'll do. Don't forget though that a lot of conversation about pedestrian use was about all the uses on the north side, and we did get a lot of concerns from pedestrians who are trying to get to Johnson's or get to the post office or get to school, that it's the north side of the highway that they're walking on. And we got a lot of feedback also that, because we tried a few different ways of doing this, that it's really not compatible to have pedestrians and snowmobiles use the same space. That even if it's nice and packed down from snowmobile use, it's a terrible pedestrian route. And so that's why I think some of the additional resources were put into making sure there were two routes on the highway on the north and the south side so that we could separate those uses. So now the question is, does it work at all on the south side for snowmobiles? And I guess I would love to have more conversation with the Snowmobile Club to learn about how it's going, or what, if it's even gone at all. But also, is it workable to have pedestrians on the south side, given the number of north side sites that they're actually trying to get to? And I think then the last thing is that there's a lot more driveway interruptions in that kind of north side section that gets closer to town, and we end up having a lot of conflicts between people clearing their parking lots and driveways and the space that's trying to be cleared. That we've even had that issue with the Snowmobile Club and their groomers talking about how difficult that can be. So I think the south side avoids that somewhat, but honestly, this is not something that's solved. We don't know whether it will work better or not work better, and I would love to hear from the Snowmobile Club about their feedback on that.
Well, what I see happening, and I observed it, and to me, quite frankly, it doesn't matter which side of the road they're using. I know I'm on the south side, but I've noticed snowmobiles using both sides of the highway right now. And on the side that they've plowed, if you look, they're actually driving from streetlight to streetlight and weaving around and continuing the same path that they've always used for 15 years. And a lot of the reasoning is there really isn't any signage at the bottom of the Gunflint Trail telling them where to go. So they're going where they used to go. A few snowmobiles cross over. I see tracks on the new sidewalk now, but then I also see banks of snow piled up on some of the business driveways. And the groomer, to the best of my knowledge, I think has maybe rolled the trails a couple of times. We haven't had snow now in 3 weeks, so they haven't had an opportunity to actually come into town and groom, so they're not grooming right now. But if they do come into town and groom, they will knock those banks down with their groomer, I'm sure, to better the trail for the snowmobilers. But that's what I've observed. I think part of the problem might be, people driving where they used to drive. And also when they get to the bottom of Gunflint, there's no sign that says they must cross the highway to get on this new trail. There's nothing there. So, I mean, part of it maybe is to discuss this, like you said, Mike, with the Snowmobile Club, and then look at signage, whether it's going to be stay on the north side or stay on the south side. A little sign or something down at the bottom of the Gunflint Trail would help direct them and where they're going. That's
I also think, and if we do that, that's fine. I also think what we have to consider is maybe looking at our speed limit there then, which is a state highway, but it's 40 there at the Gunflint still, not 30. So we're directing people out in front of 40-mile-an-hour traffic, not 30-mile-an-hour traffic. And I don't think that's fair to a car traveling, and I don't think it's fair to a snowmobile traveling. So we just have to make sure that we're looking out for all entities, is my point.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. What does the council think about before the next meeting? We can have a discussion with the the snowmobile club and put some feet on the ground out there to see what that space looks like, and then we can come back and we can talk about it again next meeting. Does that work for everyone? Cool. All right. Well, thank you for that discussion. I think that'll, hopefully this is one of those discussions that, because this is the first winter that we've had the new infrastructure on Highway 61, that we can kind of nail this one down and go for it. But sometimes things keep coming back. All right, so let's move on to council and staff reports. So we're going to have Anton go first.
Well, quite a bit of what we talked about at the EDA meeting yesterday, we talked about tonight with folks from the Minnesota Housing. We actually had two business park lots that we'd had a purchase agreements on. They actually shifted lots after going through some different aspects of planning and what fits their needs best. So instead of bailing on the whole thing, we agreed to let them change the selection of the two lots that they did. So they're working on wrapping that up. But I got called away, and so did not catch the rest. Mary's still here if she wants to chime in, but that's kind of where I'm at.
You'll see the minutes in your next board packet, and we're always here to answer questions if you want. Thank you, Anton.
Okay, Anton, anything else? Not until you can remember it. Kelly, go ahead, update.
Nothing.
All right, Michael, you just got on, so you don't have an update probably right now, but you sure will next time. Craig, do you have any updates for us?
Nope, none today.
And honestly, there was an emergency management meeting that happened yesterday. That one, they basically just talked about the rollout of the vaccine that's going according to plan. Emergency services members of the community are going to be starting to get vaccine next this coming week. So that's pretty exciting. I believe that the physicians and such at the hospital and direct care providers have received their second shot for the vaccine. So things are moving with that. But other than that, I don't really have any other information other than just a heads up for the board that I applied for a position on the Minnesota Post Board, which is the Peace Officers Standards and Training Board. That's a state board that oversees the standards and trainings for peace officers throughout the state. Not sure if I'm going to get it or not, but it sounds like the position that I applied for is for elected officials in outstate communities of less than 5,000. So, that's us. And there's not a lot of, there's tons of other communities that fit that, but
yeah, like 600.
Yeah, but there's not there hasn't been a lot of interest from what I understand. So, so that'll be an interesting position to assume if that works out. So with all that said, any Mike, Kim, Patrick, do you have any further? Go ahead.
One brief thing, we thought about maybe adding it to this agenda as well, but we haven't yet published the housing ordinance that you approved the second reading of at your last meeting. And the reason for that is because it's enormous. And there is a provision where the council can approve a summary of that ordinance for publication instead. So Chris has prepared a draft for me, and I'll put it on the agenda for you to look at. But just so you know, our intention is to publish a summary of the ordinance rather than the entire ordinance. And of course, the entire ordinance is available for anyone to look at right now on our website. And we can also make any other arrangements for people that want to see what it says in writing. And that's what the summary will also say.
Very good. Anything else? Any final comments? Seeing none, we have completed our agenda items for the day, so we are adjourned. Thank you much.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good night, all.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.